While the largest gun rights lobby group in the U.S., the National Rifle Association, says the only way to protect children from gun violence is to station an armed guard in every school. Well, that idea met with instant protest by advocates for gun control. Two people unfurled banners during yesterday's NRA news conference. They argue that the best way to protect children is to ban military-style assault rifles. Well, Joseph Lieberman is the author of the book School Shootings, What Every Parent and Educator Needs to Know to Protect Our Children. He's spoken with many victims of school shootings, and he joins us now from Eugene, Oregon. Joe, thanks again for being with us. So the NRA wants guns in schools. How do you feel about that proposal?
Well, Christine, right now, guns are in schools in the sense that about a third of U.S. schools have a public safety officer on duty right now. And those are primarily high schools. So it's not a completely new idea. What I think is that the NRA position that guns in the hands of public safety officers could prevent school shootings is basically correct. However, what they're not saying is that there should be a limit on the assault weapons that cause these tragedies to happen. So in some ways I agree with what the NRA is saying. In some ways I disagree with what basically they're not saying.
Interesting. Joe, you've spoken with victims and family members of victims of school shootings. Do you think the NRA's plan would resonate with many of them?
Yes. In fact, yesterday I called up a couple of people. Sue Klang is the widow of a school principal who was killed in 2006 in Wisconsin. She felt that it would be helpful that she said after the school shooting where her husband was killed, there was an armed officer patrolling the halls that made staff and students feel more secure. She says it's not a bad idea, but it won't solve all the problems. These school shooters will find other ways to infiltrate. Then someone else from your region, actually from Montreal, Louise D'Souza, the mother of Anastasia D'Souza, who was killed at Dawson College in 2006, feels that it's a very bad idea because if you have more people with guns, when shooting starts, there'll be chaos. And people arriving later on the scene, officers arriving later, may not know who's actually responsible for the shooting.
It's interesting how the opinions on both sides of the border are so dramatically different. Joe, I want to ask you, because your child was actually in a school when a young man with several guns tried to get in. Having been through what you have, would you have felt safer had there been an armed guard at her school?
Frankly, I would have, but with conditions, and that is, I'm well aware through my research that there have been a number of school shootings by actually teachers and administrators. And the worst mass murder in history before last summer's killings in Norway took place in South Korea in 1982 when an on-duty policeman, drunk and having a fight with his girlfriend, went into a rage and he killed 57 people. So that was an on-duty policeman in uniform. So when the NRA says that only a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun, I find this hugely simplistic. The idea that you can separate good and bad that easily, and that a person who's a very good man today will still be a good man 5 years from now or 2 years from now.
Joe, we're running out of time here, but I want to ask you, you seem to say that you agree with some of what's being said, you don't agree with other parts. It looks like there's going to be some kind of compromise here. What do you think that compromise is going to look like? What are you going to end up with here?
I think they will reinstate the ban on assault weapons because, as we know, hunters don't need them, and there was a ban on them before. It was effective. And I think there will also be a move to put more public safety officers in schools. I think that's the compromise that's needed.
Interesting. Joseph, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Christine, for having me on.
That's Joseph Lieberman, author of School Shootings, What Every Parent and Educator Needs to Know to Protect Our Children. Well, among developed nations, the U.S. stands out for the number of guns in civilian hands. An independent research group based in Geneva looked at gun statistics from 28 countries. The two with the most guns were India and the United States. India has a much bigger population than the U.S. and about 46 million guns in circulation. That's about 4 guns for every 100 people. The U.S. is less than a third the size of India, but is home to about 270 million firearms. That's 89 guns for every 100 people. Put another way, the U.S. has less than 5% of the global population, but 40% of the world's guns.